everyone, welcome back to Faith in Flour. If you're new here, my name is Robin. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about food storage. So I have a series on our prepper pantry, and if you haven't seen it, I'll have the playlist linked in the cards above and also in the description box below so that you can check it out. But basically we have a 3-month food supply for any number of emergencies. And you guys have had a lot of questions that are really great, and I want to answer some of those in today's video. And I also want to show you what I have been learning over this last week about longer term food storage. And that is in response to some of your questions, which have been really great and have sparked some curiosity on my side. So this was fun to explore. Before we get started, I want to give you a little channel update just to let you know that we are going to be spending a little bit of extra time with family over the next few weeks. So I might not be uploading videos as frequently as I normally do. And that doesn't mean that I won't be back very soon. It just means I'm taking a little bit of a break. So I hope you guys will stick with me. I will have some new content up very soon. And if you'd like to know what's going on in between, I'm going to try to stay active on Instagram. So definitely check out what's going on over there. Thank you guys so much for all of the support and love that you give me after each video. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And I know on the occasion when I have taken off from my regular schedule, you guys are always really quick to ask me if everything's okay. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. So just so you know, things might slow down over the next couple of weeks, but I will be back in full force very soon. So let's get started on today's video. This week I explored how to extend the life of the flour that we keep in our pantry. So I mostly stock white flour, and so this generally will last about a year on your shelf, but there are some measures that you need to take to ensure that you don't wind up with a bug infestation. One thing you can do is vacuum seal your flour, and so I'm going to show you how I did that this week and also talk to you about some alternate methods. I want to say thank you to Pleasant Hill Grain. They supplied this Nesco vacuum sealer for me to use in today's video and to show you how to use this method. Pleasant Hill Grain is an online company that offers premium quality kitchen appliances and tools such as grain mills and dough mixers, as well as a wide variety of other kitchen related products. I will have a link to them down in the description box, so if you are building a prepper pantry of your own, definitely check them out. I'm going to show you a simple and foolproof method for vacuum sealing your flour for long-term food storage. In addition to your vacuum sealer, you will need some lunch bags. And the reason for this is that the flour will clog up your vacuum sealer if you do not contain it properly. So I'm going to measure out about half a bag of flour into one of these sacks. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to have smaller portions that I can open a little bit at a time. And also it will fit into my vacuum bags a little bit easier and make storage a little bit easier as well. So I had my flour all in these Ziploc bags to contain any outbreak of weevils should that occur. And guess what, guys? I opened up 2 bags of flour that I was storing in there, and they had weevils. I've only had them on my shelf for a little bit over a month, so I was really surprised to find that, but it just goes to illustrate the importance of doing this so that you don't waste your food. Now, my grocery store was really nice, and I took them back to the grocery store. They exchanged them for new flour. But I was in a hurry to get these sealed up and stored properly so that that wasn't going to happen again. Patrick said, "Did you film the weevils so you could show everybody?" And I said, "No, I just couldn't get them out of the kitchen fast enough." So I was really glad that I had them in that Ziploc bag, but it's not a foolproof way of preventing weevils. They just contain the weevils so that if you have an outbreak, it doesn't contaminate anything else in your pantry. So at the very least, do that. When you get home from the grocery store, put your flour in a Ziploc bag or another airtight container so that if weevils do hatch in your flour, they don't get into the other food that you have. When Patrick and I were first married, we had a weevil outbreak in our pantry. This happened because I was working and I just wasn't baking that often since it was just the two of us. And so the flour that I had stayed on the shelf for a while, and I did not have it contained in an airtight container of any sort. And so the weevils laid eggs in our pantry and infested almost all of our food, and we had to throw everything out. So my best advice is to keep everything in airtight containers, and if you do have a weevil outbreak, you're probably going to need to throw away any food that isn't in an airtight container and wipe down your pantry shelves thoroughly. They lay eggs in the corners, and you can continue to have outbreak after outbreak if you don't address it. So this is super important. You will need some masking tape to seal the bag loosely, and I'll show you how I do that in just a minute, but you can use this masking tape as your label, and I definitely recommend writing down the type of flour because I usually have both all-purpose and bread flour in my pantry, and I like to write the expiration date so that I am sure to use the flour that is the oldest first. After you have measured out the amount of flour that you want to put in your paper sack, tap it on the counter like this to release any air pockets and to get the flour to settle down into the bottom of the bag. Then just loosely fold over the top of the bag and seal it with just one piece of masking tape like this so that the air will be able to escape from the bag fairly easy with your vacuum sealer. I like using a kitchen scale to measure out my flour, but it's certainly not necessary. You can just pour in whatever amount you like, or you can use a cup measure. It's all up to you. I do have one piece of advice that will save you some time later. If you have a recipe for bread, for instance, and you know that it takes 3 or 4 cups of flour, you could measure that out, label your bag, and then when you're ready to prepare that recipe, you will have saved yourself a step. Whenever I'm working with flour, I always make a huge mess. No matter how carefully I'm measuring it out, it seems to go everywhere. So I would say if you see the type of flour that you like on sale, go ahead and buy a few bags. You can bring them home and do it all at one time. That way you have out all of your equipment at once and you can clean up all at once too. Oxygen absorbers are just little food-safe packages that contain iron, and when they oxidize, they use up all of the oxygen in the container that you put them in. So I'm going to include one as I vacuum seal each of these flour sacks. I will have a link to the ones that I'm using in today's video in the description box, and I'll also put them in my Amazon store in the cooking section. Now I'm going to show you how to actually do the vacuum sealing. And this deluxe vacuum sealer from Nesco is great. It uses a roll of plastic, so you have to seal the bottom and the top of the bag, but the instructions are very clear and it couldn't be easier, so don't be intimidated. So here I'm just sealing the bottom of the bag. All you do is place one end of the bag on the sealing strip and then you close the top cover. You press down on the handle until it's fully closed, and then you press the manual seal button to start sealing. And when the progress display reaches 0, the unit will automatically turn off and the sealing will be completed, and then you can fill the bag with whatever you like. What's great about this is that you can make the bag any size that you like, so you really eliminate a lot of waste. The first bag that I made was actually for the oxygen absorbers. And the reason for this is that once they are exposed to air, they start absorbing the oxygen. So in order to retain the freshness of the ones that I don't need today, I'm going to just pull out what I need and then quickly reseal the others, and I can use them for a future time. After I fill the new bag that I've made with the oxygen absorbers, I just insert the open end into the machine, close the lid and push down on the handle. Then you can press the sealing button and it will count down just as it did before, but it will remove all of the air from the bag before it seals it. So as you can see, you'll hear the pressure release and your bag is sealed and ready for storage. So I can put these oxygen absorbers aside. I know that they're still going to be effective the next time I want to use them. And now I can start sealing up my flour sacks. Now for the fun part. Grab one of your paper flour sacks and insert it into the plastic bag that you've made. Before you seal it up, make sure that you tuck one of the oxygen absorbers in there. It's not going to come in contact with the flour, but if it did, that would be okay too. You've probably seen these packets in food that you've bought from the store. Then just make sure that the bag is straight as possible at the top and smooth it out so that there aren't any wrinkles. Close the lid, and just like you did with the oxygen absorber bag, you just press a button and watch as the air is removed from your bag. The machine will let you know when it's finished, and that's it. Now your flour is ready to be stored for a longer period of time. It's definitely going to stay fresher, and you have lessened the chance of having a weevil outbreak. One more measure you can take to virtually ensure you have no problem with weevils is to freeze your flour. So the best is to leave the flour in the freezer, basically store it there until you're ready to use it. But if you're like me, you don't have the freezer space to allow for that. So from what I've discovered from my research, it will suffice to put your flour in the freezer from anywhere from 48 hours to 2 weeks. There's varying opinion on this, but I found quite a few reliable sources that say 48 hours is enough. So what I have been doing is rotating my flour through. I only have room for about 2 of these sealed bags at a time, so I put them in for 48 hours and then take them out. I have read from certain people that you need to do this more than once in order to kill the eggs, but I'm just doing it for 48 hours. I'm comfortable with that, but if you would like to take extra measures, definitely do your research and do what seems right to you. There will be a little bit of condensation involved, and when you do the vacuum sealing first, the condensation will mostly be on the outside. So if you choose to freeze before vacuum sealing, just make sure that it comes completely to room temperature and has plenty of time to sit out so that you're not sealing it up with moisture inside. I know that's a lot of information, so I hope it all makes sense, but this is what I have been doing to ensure that we don't have any more weevils in our pantry and that our flour stays nice and fresh for as long as possible. And of course, we're going to be careful to use it by the date so that we don't let it go to waste. Of course, vacuum sealing is great for all sorts of other foods as well, and I will explore some of those things in a future video. But next I want to talk to you about dehydrating. Dehydration is another great method for preserving food for longer term storage, and this is something that you can do easily in your home as well. My friend Dixie just got a new dehydrator and she was excited to show me how it works, and I was super excited to learn how to use it as well. First step, of course, is washing your produce thoroughly. And Dixie introduced me to a new product that I've never used before, but it sounds great and she loves it. This is a special produce wash that is designed with natural ingredients to remove all of the impurities, the pesticides, and dirt from the outside of your fruits and vegetables. It even extends the life of them. Dixie swears by this product. She says that her produce lasts longer, and I could see as we were washing everything how much dirt was removed, especially from the carrots. They don't even need to be peeled afterwards, and you feel a lot better about eating them, but I'm definitely interested in making my produce last longer, so I ordered some, and I have been using it, and I have it in my Amazon store, so you can find that in the cooking section. So of course, since we're dehydrating, we want to go ahead and remove the water as much as possible from the celery. And then we just want to cut it up in basically uniform sizes that are going to fit on the trays in the dehydrator. The dehydrator works best when all of the trays are inserted, so we decided to try to fill it as much as possible. So we had a good time visiting with each other while we chopped up the vegetables and set them out on the trays. Dixie is a little bit camera shy, so I couldn't convince her to go on camera with me other than a few shots I got of her slicing some vegetables. Here she used a mandolin for slicing the onions, and you can use this for any of the vegetables to ensure that they are a uniform size. This really helps when using the dehydrator to make sure that everything comes out in a uniform manner when the drying time is complete. After all of the trays are loaded, you just set the temperature and the time. The dehydrator works at a very low temperature. This time we used about 125 degrees, and it takes several hours. We actually used it overnight, so about 12 to 14 hours for the things that we used. The next day when I went back to Dixie's to see all of the things we dehydrated, I was amazed. It was really fun to see how things turned out, and Dixie had been experimenting with all sorts of things like this roasted cauliflower, which was delicious. She sent some home with me, and Patrick and I demolished it in no time. It was so good. Dixie also dehydrated some lemons that came from their tree in the backyard, along with apples, bananas, and even strawberries. Dehydrating is a great way to extend the life of any produce that you have on hand. So if something isn't going to be used anytime soon, you can dehydrate it and turn it into an amazing snack, or you can use the vegetables in a soup when you rehydrate them later. This was a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and it's really fun to taste all of the fruits and vegetables in their dehydrated form. We hope that today's video gave you some new ideas for long-term food storage in your extended pantry. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We look forward to seeing you in the comments and in the next video. And until then, have a wonderful week.